Yeah, fortunately the potential for lag is definitely in there, so let's see if that is going to be happening or not. Well, at any rate, we are starting with the first game of the match in here between those two top clans in Division 2, and let's see who is going to be proven better and worthy of the first spot in there. Well, so we are starting with having a look at Metallo, who is right now being at the right side. I'm having a pretty decent starting position, but since we are, of course, on Highland, that is kind of presupposed that it's going to be easy. And with the gold right next to his home base, that's pretty decent next to the deer in here. So I'm fully expecting that this is going to be a pretty good game for him, especially looking at the TC at the back. That is very nicely positioned. But we should be looking at the villages where they are going with the map, or rather on the map, for the dogs. It's looking like that all three JSS are going for the middle pond. But curiously enough, God Lion is actually going for the pockets. Fish, not really going to the middle. That's quite interesting indeed, as he's going to be basically using probably even the pond on the left side, and his allies, well, they are Metallo on the right side together with on the left side Skadi. They are going a bit more into the branches in here, so it's not like they are moving right into the middle exactly like JSS, so that's a bit different approach by both of these teams, and let's see what's going to be better. Overall, since KeeNs are of course triple Zeus, I'll be heavily favoring them on any kind of water map, especially since they are facing against Loki and Oranos and Zeus, but well, let's see if that's going to be anything that will be really working for them in the long run. Pretty decent positioning of the gold mine as well for Earth, so it's almost looking like some kind of theme of this map. Looking at the yellow player, does he have the gold somewhere? Not really. Not really, but we have also seen... oh, this is interesting spawn. This is almost a cliff, but not. You can see this is how the cliff should look, but this is like literally almost a cliff, but it is passable. You can walk across this, and sometimes makes for some pretty interesting and funny spawns. Interesting gold placement, of course, and I'm kind of curious if the red player is going to be advancing into the middle as well, or if he's just going to be sticking with the fishies on the sides, and that would, if he continues with the fishies on the left, it could basically tell us that KeeNs are not all that keen on going into the water battle in the middle, and that might signal some kind of faster mythic from Gold Lion, which wouldn't definitely be a bad idea, as that is a strategy that works quite nicely on this kind of map. Yeah, that was a bit of a bad luck for Skadi, not having enough fish at the top. So that kind of backfires. Not for Metallo, he is having at least 1-3 sum on the right side, but really this is the risk on Highland, because you don't know if there are going to be enough fishes for you, and unfortunately for Skadi, could have been better, but also worse. Also worse, as the second 3-sum is not all that far away. The front DC from Falco is pretty nicely positioned. It's going to be guarding basically the way through into the opponent's base and even into his home base, whereas the opponent's DC on the other side, Scud is not all that great. So I'm kind of thinking that this is not going to be all that important strategically, whereas the one in Green's base is much more interesting. Some relics, the Retrical, alright, going for Temple, in an interesting position, but not much really on Highland, as he is thinking that he needs to protect the choke point, which is exactly what he needs to do. Hypaspis, Axeman throw in Axeman hack damage, and Cairo Ballista pierce damage. That's very nice, especially right next to Oranos, who is going, of course, for his temple as well. And do we see something interesting on the right side? Well, we see that Earth is actually missing the front DC, of course. So yeah, that is the reason why I am recasting this match, and well, it is going to be quite tough, of course, for him to deal with that problem, since he's having just one, and that is a pretty huge disadvantage, even though he is Zeus, so he is probably the best suited to deal with two TCs, as opposed to Oranos, who is advancing into Prometheus, or the Loki on the left side, who is 14% into Forseti as well, but he is going to be facing another Zeus, as there are a lot of Zeuses in the opponent's team, basically all three of them, of course, so that's a pretty huge disadvantage, and let's see if Metallo will be able to use that to his advantage. So far we don't see red going anywhere else, just for the side builds, exactly as we were talking about a bit earlier. So yeah, that should signal that he's going to be booming a whole lot more. Right now going for a pickaxe, not advancing into the next age yet. And is there going to be hand axe sometime soon? Probably only after he switches into the next age. Double Hermes though, for Skadi and Metallo. And here we see hand axe. And do we see pickaxe already ready? No yet, not yet. But it is being researched, so that's of course going to be pretty much a standard build-up. Whereas for blue, we are so far seeing no upgrades, but is something coming up? There definitely should be something, but there isn't, which is telling us that he is going to be full on water. Build in second dock in here, and with one yellow, is it still one? Oh no, it is two docks already. There's going to be full on water fight because all three JSS are going to be having two docks, just two. Skadi is going to be having two docks, with Metal also too, but you can see that Gold Lion is nowhere in the middle, so that's going to be up to KeeN, Skadi and Metal to deal with the water. And since they are advancing quite fast as opposed to their opponents, it's looking that they might be in a pretty good position to deal with their opponents but just by themselves, but they really shouldn't be winning. They shouldn't be winning, but they will engage their opponents for quite long enough so that his allies, or rather so that Gold Lion will be having all the free time in the world to boom and get better economy than his opponents. Well then, Falco going for a bit of raiding, trying to find something to kill. So far not really successful because he hasn't even reached his opponent, of course. And Dax pickaxe, which is pretty decent and would be expected at this stage of the game. And well, there's going to be a bit of water fight in here, as you would be expecting that Skadi would be doing a good job. But here we see triple bolt on the water. So that were 3 boats, and basically they killed Earth right there. He basically has no boats right now. You can see he's left with 2 RMS, or rather 3 RMS. One just was finished from the dock, and he lost 3 boats, just like that. And that's a pretty good idea for the water fight, and should be helping KeeN quite strongly. But well, since they are fighting against 3 opponents, it's of course not going to be all that game deciding. Second TC being captured by the red player, and also having nicely hidden Kataskopos at the very end of the map, and that is going to be helping quite nicely with another Kataskopos by Metallo, also positioned in a pretty nice spot. The front one from, or rather, scout from Skadi is not great. That's probably going to be killed soon, I would be thinking, but otherwise, 30C being captured by Gold Lion, so he's definitely going for full-on boom, which is so far not happening for GSS, because they still haven't picked up on the fact that Red isn't in the battle all that much, and that's basically because he is raiding, oh, not raiding, the other stuff booming, and KeeN, Metallo with Skadi are basically just buying time for him and trying to make sure that Gold Lion is going to be quite nicely set up for the later game. This of course means the JSS should be winning the water rather comfortably, and they are most definitely aiming for that. A lot of gold in the middle island, but to be honest, it's rare to see anybody actually making use of it. I don't really remember actually somebody using it. It's usually not happening because at the stage when you could be thinking about it, at least you are already having pretty decent trade on this pretty defensive map, and so you don't need it at all. Yeah, that's not really any kind of point for that. So, ceasefire for building a front TC. Now that could have been a bit of a problem for Skadi if he wasn't able to capture it, as he definitely doesn't have the land army. He's the one from KeeN who is fighting on the water, and since he's just now setting up with archery range and military academy, of course, Falco was having the upper hand, and well, he's at least using the ceasefire to take a TC himself. TC is being captured all around the map with Metallo, and T2 also going for second and third already, but since he's in a pocket, that kind of makes sense. And well, Earth is going to be taking his sole TC, fortunately for him, and trying to keep up with his opponents. Fortunately, third TC is going to be for Metal coming up, and it's almost looking like that this villager is going to be coming for a bit of walling. He definitely could wall about here and here. That would be a pretty nice spot. But he is going for a bit more conventional wall, right in the choke point, which is of course going to be working quite nice as well. It doesn't seem like that KeeN are giving up on the water all that much. They are still having quite a lot of boats, and they are kind of right to do so, because JSS are not having all that convincing advantage, even though they have the numbers, but they are not wrecking them, which means that if KeeN can pump out enough boats to make JSS commit even more, that's going to be a victory for them, and definitely working in the long run quite nicely. You can see already Pulse saying for the blue player, I was trying to look up some boats. Confirm that, yes. And well, already quite nice economy for Goat Lion coming up with Hendak's pickaxe, but not plow yet, yeah? Is he actually having Granare? Oh yes, he is. But he should be advancing to the next age because we are seeing the armory. And well, Centaur was getting rid of the bear in here as he doesn't want any kind of nonsenses on his side. So right now Earth was trying to go into the forefront. He was trying to steal the TC for himself, I think. Because sending four villages to actually wall is not really all that clever, but he was kinda slow, and of course this means that Metallo will be having the upper hand against these two TCs with just 3, rather with this 3, and it's not going to be all that easy for the blue player to deal with this kind of disadvantage at all. On the left side there's not really all that much happening, just Scotty basically right now prepared for all the nonsenses that his opponent can muster, but since he is quite nicely ready, and Titu is moving to the left side to help him in case of problems, it doesn't look like that Scotty should be advancing further sometime soon. So far he is having what economy upgrades, and Dax pickaxe, also no plow yet. So could be advancing to the next age sometime soon as well. Still just waiting for it, and finally the Apollo from Goat Lion coming up, so he's probably going to be the first one into the next age, as maybe, just maybe, Titu could be thinking about it as well, but so far he isn't. And well, you can see that on the water it's pretty much decided just about now, and it's going to be a cleanup, and potentially in the long run, a pretty decent help for JSS, because the TCs are not really all that far behind. This one is. This one, well, from this side of the water, it definitely is in range of at least mythical units. In Mythic, it would definitely be in water range. So let's see if actually Earth can sustain his presence in here on this 1-3-sum. And if he can, that's going to be a bit of a problem for Metallo and a way for him to make up for the deficit in the TCs. Finishing with the TCs, oh yeah, this is in water range as well. That could be a problem in the late game because it doesn't look like possible. It doesn't look possible that actually KeeNs will be able to come back through water. And well, there's going to be a double wall in here, so it's really seeming that KeeNs are going to be attempting to use their underworld passages to full extent. Interesting walling by Teal. He actually couldn't manage to wall in the choke point, which is by now in full control by Falco. And well, even though he's having a pretty decent army, he doesn't have enough to pull through the walls and defend against all those archers that are right now ready by Scary. Definitely would be like in medium toxots, especially since he's facing all that many Heresiers. And well, 30C is going to be captured by him, so it's looking like that Falco is going to be the last one. Even a TC3 still at the back, but otherwise it's going to be pretty much it. And those Kataskopos, this red one, and the teal one, or the purple one at the bottom of the map, they are definitely going to be waiting for their turn to cause havoc the opponent's bases. Fishing ship with Pursein, alright. Not much really happening in here, as it's looking like that Falco was trying to find another way through. And this is definitely a good one, because even though it's slightly under the fire... Oh, oh my, there is a way through. There is a way through for Falco. So let's see if he actually is going to be getting through there. He was getting rid of the wall, as that could have been some kind of strategic opportunity for Scary to defend. But so far he's through, going to be getting rid of the dock, and then going for a bit of raiding. As Titu is already camping in here, trying to disrupt the trade that is going to come pretty soon. Mythic from Goat Lion, which was expected, so that's the fast mythic that you're expecting, 30 minutes, sub 13 minutes. So that should be Kataskopos already moving into position, and that will be Underworld Passage going up somewhere quite soon. Extra armories, as we will be expecting Forge of Olympus. Yep, coming up. So that's going to be all 3, and Underworld Passage with hoplites, and all this nonsense coming into Titu's base. Let's see. Is Titu advancing? Oh yes, he is, through Helios, already into Mythic. I thought that I actually saw the switch in the town center, but unfortunately it's not going to matter all that much. As Underworld Passage has been cast as well, and it's going to be cast from Earth's actually home base, as he's not under pressure from Metallo at all so far. It's kinda curious, to be honest. And he's going to be helping with the Underworld Passage from the red player, but let's see if it's going to be enough because there is a pretty decent army already trickling in from red. Gold Lion is sending myrmidons in. But it's looking like that all those hoplites from the blue player should be quite well enough. Yes, so goodbye, underworld passage, but there is going to be attempt at the DC, and with the ceasefire coming up, of course DC is going to be stolen, and pretty tough times coming for JSS, because not only is JSS Earth at just 2 DCs, because he doesn't have the third spawned on this map, because it was bugged. Right now it's going to be T2 also at 2 DCs, but well, the Gold Lion and already 3. There's going to be probably an attempt soon by Falco to somehow push forward, because he cannot really allow his opponents to get all that bigger upper hand. That's nicely used by Scary to build the rock in here, trying to make sure that he can somehow go back to the water. Whereas Purple is not thinking about anything like that, but he is. He is. Oh, really? Salt Amphora for 3 fishing boats? Really? That's an interesting investment I wouldn't have probably made, especially at this stage of the game, where it's looking like that actually you could be spending a lot of resources somewhere else. Like, for example, into Mythic. Right. Right. That's kind of curious, but let's go back to the main battlefield. Well, finally we see exactly the switch from Metalo into Hephaestus, and well, let's see if maybe Earth is going to be able to save his teammate Gold Lion, who is going to be attempting to build probably his front base in here, as he's having enough villages in there. Yeah, just now dropping military academy and such. But since he doesn't have enough to push through in here, as basically his underworld passage is done, there's going to be just a few heroes coming up. He shouldn't be all that strong, and with all the hoplites, I think that he should be taking TC down, even through all the upgrades like the fortified TC, and of course masons, and even architects, and of course also bronze weapons for the extra attack. So far doing quite nicely, but oh well, definitely could use capturing the Dryad tree, as the Dryads are unwelcome help for JSS, but quite welcome for KeeNs, and so far it's working quite nicely for them. And let's see if they can somehow finish with the problem at hand. He does have the villagers. He does have town center, so he can potentially even make extra villas in here to help him in the case. And he doesn't really need them all that much. You can see that all the army is here ready. Having myrmidons with bronze everything. And here we see, oh, flaming weapons and Fimbulwinter. There still were. Oh yeah, I remembered correctly, there was still extra ceasefire. And it was quite apparent that actually Metalo didn't want to cast it in here, as he wants to keep it for his underworld passage, that he basically wants to do the same as his opponent did here at the bottom. So let's see if he's gonna get the chance. But I'm kinda thinking that he should be, because I don't expect that after the flaming weapons are gone, if Falco isn't able to take down the TC from his opponent, I don't really expect there's going to be much that he could be doing against all the defense of the Greek player already with heavy toxots, not any kind of upgrades, as he's waiting of course for the mythical age. But well, flaming weapons, still 20 seconds left, they are quite strong indeed. But it seems like that the defense from the teal player is working quite nicely. Gold Lion going for Titan Gate at the very back of his base. So he's thinking that the situation is not really all that well in his hands, and it's really looking like that Earth is going to be able to deal with the problem, as once the TC is down, I don't think that it's going to be coming up yet again, because T2 is having enough things in here. Dryads are going to be coming up from Earth to help with getting rid of all this, and yep, with the Bellis and all the army coming up, I don't really think that Gold Lion is... Well, he's definitely going to be a nuisance for minutes to come, but he shouldn't really be staying in here, as T2 will quite probably get rid of him pretty soon. But it should also mean that on the right side, Metalo will be having basically free reign. It's still the underworld passage, I don't expect that for much longer. But there is going to be an opportunity for some kind of advance for the purple player, as blue is of course just 2 TCs, building right now towers, which is exactly what he should. And that might be the last hope that he has to somehow stall his opponent, as he's not going to be winning the game. It has to be done through the left side, or something else like... maybe this. Yeah, this is very nicely played by JSS, and exactly what we talked about a bit earlier, that winning the water is going to be important in controlling the TCs, especially for JSS. So JSS won the water, and right now KeeN Gold Lion is just 2 TCs, and that's of course going to be a pretty big problem, as they are going to be kinda partially control in the water as well. So there is a ceasefire for battle on the left, because Metallo is right now recognizing that he is in pretty deep problems and needing all the extra help that he can get from his opponent, or rather from his allies, as this isn't going all that well for him, as Falco is basically beating him 1v1 it seems, and doing a pretty good job at that. So let's check the military upgrades. Bronze and irons, already pretty decent, whereas his opponent is of course having nothing, as he is still in the heroic age, if I remember correctly. Oh yes, he is the last one in the heroic age, and there's not much that he can be doing against the mythical, quite nicely upgraded Falco. Well then, Titan is going to be finished. DC is right now attempted as well. It seems like that it might be finished as well, because the siege boats are somewhere else. As it seems like that Scotty will be attempting to somehow control the water a bit more. And where are the boats? I'm not sure, but Gold Lion is also going for the waters in the middle, going for reinforced trams and some pentacounters, and he is definitely not giving up in this front base in Titus base. So it seems like this is not really over for Titu yet. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit tough, but looking how he's making just heavy mini bronze with decent iron upgrades. But well, since we are seeing champion fanatics already with not really all that great upgrades, just copper mail, copper weapons and bronze shields, still fanatics basically wreck mini-bidons, so that's not a good unit for Gold Lion to be making in the offensive in there. Titu is also switching to the right side, as he's right now fully helping his teammate Earth, who definitely needs it, as he's facing with 2 TCs 3. And well, it seems to be working quite well, but Metallo is doing a nice thing, also basically copying what Earth is doing, and that's building towers, which is exactly what he needs to do if he wants to somehow at least stall the situation, as he's going to be fighting against 2 opponents. Ceasefire by Earth. Because he was kind of feeling that he's going to lose this battle in here, and maybe even to basically stop the towers from coming up, as that would be a pretty big problem, and he basically recognized that. So I'm thinking that's because of that than anything else. And let's see how JSS are going to be able to deal with the problem at hand. So right now they are still facing a pretty big problem with all the military buildings in Yellow's base from red. Titan Gate is going to be coming up, but it's probably not going to be all that easy, even though Tito is sending absolutely everything in. You can see 18 villages, 18 citizens, all the army, or rather all the army, most of the army on the right, and there is going to be an attempt at walling. Quite nice one in here. So that's going to be quite unusual for Gold Lion to deal with. Yeah. Those are exactly the siege boats that you were talking about a bit earlier, but he needs to be careful right about now because the dock is finished, and that should mean that Gold Lion will be having enough of a push, or rather building military buildings to push out some pentacounters to get ready and rid of the siege boats in there. So Titan has moved to the left side, with another Titan Gate being built by Earth on the right side, and well, let's see how well Champion Throwing Axemen with all the upgrades and the Hercers are going to be dealing with the Titan in here. As Titan Gate from Yellow seems to be pretty much okay. Even though Champion Hypaspists with all the upgrades are trying to kill T2 as much as they can, but T2 is defending quite nicely. But this is going to be pretty much a bit more of a problem, especially through the Katascopos being exactly scouting at the correct moment at placement. And I'm thinking that Metallo might do a good job of taking care of that, but so far he is content pushing through the middle, which is working quite nicely as well. There was a bolt into the Titan. Having a bit of flight, the piggies in here, and yeah, with all the archers, this is a pretty good combo. The Titan with the archers with Toxots against Hercers is definitely working quite nicely. And well, here we see a bit of a problem for Earth, as he's going to be facing Underworld Passage and interesting units right on his doorstep on his Titan Gate. But fortunately for T2, rather fortunately for JSS, T2 does have Vortex, as he has advanced through Helios. I think that's Helios, right? Oranos. Yeah, that's Helios. And it's looking like that even though this was a good idea by Mythology, he has underestimated the situation quite a lot, as the heroes, especially like Bellerophon, are getting rid of the Colossi quite nicely and in quite commanding manner, so that's not going to be all that much of a problem in the end for Earth to defend, but still, he is having all kinds of problems in the forefront, so he's basically losing in here, as he's also having to fight at the back, and he definitely needs some help. As Metallo is also building up right in the trade route, and once that happens, once that finishes, there's of course going to be a huge problem for both Falco and Titu, as they are the ones hoping that this gold source is going to be keeping them above the water for the rest of the game. So right now Titu recognizing that he needs to get rid of all those villagers that were basically trying, or rather attempting, to do the same as the red player in the middle, who is still quite a strong presence in here, and Titu is having his hands full dealing with this problem that is still happening in here. Well, it seems like the villages are already dead for the red player, so they are not going to be building anything else, and it's going to be all up for JSS to deal with this, and I think that they should be able to do so. Especially if they lose the TC yet again, which seems quite likely at this point, as Earth is yet again shooting in there. And well, villages coming from gold line to the right side, which could be signaling that he could be joining with Metallo, since Titu is kind of fully engaged on the right side with Earth. And well, let's see if Earth can get rid of the problem at his hand. Okay, so Underworld Passage is already gone for Metallo. But still, he was able to transport quite a lot of hoplites in here. But look at how there are a ton of villages for Titan Gate, rather for Earth building the Titan Gate, and reinforcements coming up from the top. It doesn't seem likely that this is going to be getting rid of the Titan Gate anytime soon. So we are down to just one Underworld Passage for Skadi. Everybody is in Mythical Age just about now. Champion Hypaspist with all iron, so nicely upgraded. Absolutely everything, and Skadi has lost the 45 TC gold line as well. So this is dealt with, as Heracles is going to die just about now. TC down, which means that gold line is just at 2, and the TC here has been lost as well, because Titu was able to get rid of the Titan from gold line, who was here with just like, I don't know, half health, so it wasn't all that hard for him, and right now he's going to be making times very difficult for Skadi, as of course, with just 2 TCs. You could be guessing that Falco is going to be having a heyday, and let's see how well he will be able to deal with the problem at hand. Just copper weapons and heavy toxols for Skadi. That's definitely not enough, and he is going to be forced to a whole lot better than he is doing so far, as this is not working for him at all. Not even the towers are going to be helping him in this battle. Titan should be concentrating on getting rid of all the town centers for Skadi. You can see how heavily housed he is. And this TC being off, well, that's of course not nice for KeeNs, but definitely nice for JSS. And there's also a bit of a sneak build by Earth. And even though he's at just 2 TCs, having his hands full, like absolutely terribly full, with dealing with 3 TC Metallo, he's still having enough population to deal, or rather to try some shenanigans in the opponent's base. And well, he's at least binding a few army from gold line, disallowing his help somewhere else and making it harder for him to somehow still continue with the aggression inside Yellow's base, as Titu seems to be just about finishing with the nonsenses in here. Oh well, but gold line has been able to get some villages in here. Probably some transport ship I would be expecting, because there is not any kind of extra way that he could be getting there, and that's a pretty big problem, but still, probably not for much longer. And so once this dock is off, yeah, those boats are going to be getting rid of absolutely everything, but for that, blue player or anyone else will need to get rid of that. Okay, so kids are kinda recognizing that the situation is getting out of hand, and even though they were facing opponent who had 1 TC less on a fully boomy map, they are finding themselves in a pretty tough situation and having to rely on Wonder Win and possibly hoping this Titan is going to be finishing in time as well. Okay, green player moving for the gold, it seems like, as that seems to be one of the last golds on this part of the map. Yeah, it's literally the last gold for them. That is just a bit at the top. not going to be lasting for much longer. And well, let's return back to the battlefield as the Titan from T2 is making all the effort to put Scuddy at 0 TCs. He has just killed the main one, which has been rebuilt, but of course he has all the many hit points and just three Greek heroes, or 4. I don't really see where Bellerophon is. Loafing around, not doing anything, unfortunately for Scuddy. Which means that the TCs are going to be continuing coming down, and that's a pretty big problem because Scuddy is going to be out of the game, and especially with Falco getting the 4th TC himself. So that should allow him to have all the extra push in here. As Earth was trying to deal with the problem in here, getting rid of the walls and such. It's going to be finished by the boats. And there's still a bit of a problem potentially, as he hasn't finished, but right now he's going to be going into full-on offensive, as he definitely needs to, because he's at 2 TCs, which means with Titan, who is 20 population cost, that he's right now basically playing a 1 TC against 3. Soon he's going to be 1 against 2 with the Titan from purple getting finished as well. But of course, that means that even with all the towers, he's of course in deep trouble, as he doesn't have any population for like any army at all. So that's a pretty sad situation for him, and I think that he needs a help pretty soon. And let's see if he's going to receive that. So far the Titan is probably going to be finishing with the buildings, which will make his defense at least a bit easier. With the Wonder getting finished soon, and with all the army right now by Gold Lions being sent to the left, as he's going to be attempting to help his ally Scuddy, who is still having just heavy toxots, but at least bronze mail, bronze shields and bronze weapons. So that's an upgrade right there. But looking at the army right now by Falco, with 4 TCs, I'm thinking that he should be handling this situation quite nicely, but doesn't seem to be really advancing all that fast as I would like. Titan still though at half health, so he's definitely having a lot of fight left in him to get rid of all the TCs all around the map. As the TC from the purple player is also moving forward, and there is Vortex. To be honest, interesting one. Interesting Vortex, because we are seeing a Wonder of course, but he's thinking that he can actually get rid of the TCs and basically help delete Scuddy from the game, which seems to be working quite nicely with the Fire Siphon and the 3 Hekagai guns. So goodbye TC, and there's also a quite heavy and interesting forward build by Falco, who is definitely using the opportunity that he has of the extra population limit to get rid of absolutely everything, as Scuddy is dropped to 0 TCs. He has 0 TCs literally, which should put his chances of doing absolutely anything to 0, because this is his whole army, and once that is killed, he's not going to be having any population for anything else, unless he is finishing with this in sometime soon. TC has been rebuilt by Gold Lion into 3 TCs, but unfortunately it's not going to be working all that much, as at the bottom we have seen just now that Earth has won the battle against the Titan of his opponent, but look at how he's having just 700 hit points. He's going to be having probably just enough fight in him to take down TC, and that should be his goal, because if he can free the TC for his player, for Earth, that could definitely help him, and it will be equal in the situation, at least for a moment in there. So let's see if he can finish with that. And then I'm going to go back to the Wonder and the green forward base that I haven't really finished talking about all that much. But they're often having a bit of fun with Odysseus. And once more. Oh yeah. So that was exactly what he had in him. So right now, it's actually Earth going to be able to take the TC for himself. He's not sending any villagers in, so I'm not thinking that he is thinking that he can. So let's move to the top with green. Oh, oh, that's a lot of hill forts. That's a lot of hill forts, and that's going to be portable and spam. Alright, so that's working quite nicely, and of course, Gold Lion is going to be having his hands full with this problem. And with the nice spam of the towers and the hill forts, Hypaspis are most definitely not going to be anything that will help him with that. So that's nicely played by the green player. And well, yellow is quite surely eaten into the opponent's base, into Scuddy's base yet again, as he's keeping him at just 1 TC. Well, right now he's going to be at 2, but still, pretty nice build up in here with the palaces and all. So that should basically signal that this TC is coming down, which it definitely is. And well, still pretty decent army by Scuddy though. So it's kind of curious that JSS are not making a bit more of an attempt to steal the TC for themselves, because so far they are definitely doing a good job. But I think that they are advancing slightly too slow and could be a bit faster in their efforts. Well, but there's another TC for Falco, that's a 5th already. Quite nicely guarded right now by Tito. And he is switching from portable rams also into ballistas that are having pretty nice range, and with all his army in here, he's basically fully concentrating right now on the red player, and he's doing a pretty good job at that, as Godline of course is having just 2 DCs, and with all the defense from the hill forts and the towers, there's of course not going to be all that much of a chance of doing anything else. Godline doing a pretty good job though on defending the Wonder with all the towers in here. And well, it's looking like that Earth, even through the deficit in the population, because you can see that Metal has rebuilt his town center yet again, and you see yet again a pretty strong presence in the forefront, going to be attempting to steal into the opponent's base and get rid of all the TCs. There is a bit of an exodus of villagers from Earth trying to go into attack, and they are going to be attempting to wall off the trade, which is basically that anyway, because they are controlling the left choke point, which means exactly this. So goodbye trade for KeeNs, and well, I switch into Ulfsarks that are pretty good unit overall in this game, and maybe they are even from some villages I would be expecting. And to finish with the thought of all those villages in here, they are probably moving for prey into the Colossi, as you can see, and that's going to be the unit of choice to possibly assault the Wonder a bit later. So yeah, this is pretty nicely played right now. Combination of Falco and Tito, and well, is there finally somebody going for the TC? So far not. Oh, poor donkeys. Just dying in there. But I don't see any yellow villages coming for the TC, which is kind of a shame, I have to say. As I would definitely like for Tito to take the TC himself, but he doesn't seem interested, so maybe it's going to be up to Falco to clean up with the TCs and get him extra population limit, because Tito, yeah, he's going to be owning. He's going to be fully owning Scuddy in there just by himself, quite comfortably. And he also can apparently afford to help on the minimap if you have a look at the bottom. Oh, actually not. These are just villagers getting killed. So these are the villages that should be going to the TC on the left. Fortunately they aren't, they are just going to meet Hades in the underworld, unfortunately. For him, but fortunately for KeeN, as Metal is still making quite a nice attempt on Earth, pushing forward, but he also should be thinking about the backside. He definitely is just about now, but with the upgrades to the towers, fortified walls already, it's looking quite nicely, and there's a pretty good push by Earth onto the, how's it called, Wonder. But looking at the number and the heroes just now coming up from Godline's TCs, and all the towers, they are most probably not going to be taking down the TC or other Wonder by themselves. But still, since Wonders are quite slow to repair, I'm fully expecting that they could be dealing substantial enough damage to help basically allow the green player who... Oh, that's nice. To allow him... This is even better. To exactly move forward, because they have just now killed the TC, as Godline has dropped to just 1, and all the siege, getting rid of all the buildings. I'm kind of fully expecting that they will be right next to the Wonder very, very soon. So that's the first attempt. Bellerophon, of course, and Jason getting rid of the Colossi in some normal manner. But there is Underworld Passage by Scary, and that's actually being cast from where to where? Ooh. Ah, it's actually from here, right next to the TC, so that's for all the military buildings of Metal, and it's going to be cast somewhere next to the Wonder, so that he can send absolutely everything in there into the defense, but it doesn't look quite well, because Falco has already broken through and all the siege are coming in as well, and here we see Scary resigning as the Wonder topples down into the rubble, and KeeNs are resigning one by one, as they have lost the battle that seemed to be poised for their victory, not only by the sole map and civilization advantage they should be having with triple Zeus and the fast mythic on a map like this, and the triple Underworld Passage, but also because Earth was having just 2 TCs due to the bugged map. So damn well played by JSS, and definitely deserved victory for them, because at the start of the game I did not expect this at all. against the odds, because on a boomy map with one less DC, that's like that's like very tough, very tough to overcome against similarly skilled team like TBLs or other KeeNs. TBLs that are playing for KeeNs right now definitely are. Well, this was one hell of a game. Nicely played by JSS. Let's check the post game in here. Falco, yeah, he was playing very nicely the whole game. So he definitely deserves this, but I think that Titu played well as well also, because he was exactly at the places where he needed to help. He was exactly with Earth when he was under so much pressure that he was just on the verge of being toppled. But that did not happen because Tito was there and was able to help at the crucial moments, and that meant that Metallo wasn't able to push through. Quite nice echo from Falco himself. Kinda surprising, I would be expecting a whole lot better economy from Gold Lion. That's kinda curious. We was having 3 TCs very fast. And fast mythic, so that's interesting. I would be really expecting that he would be having better economy, or rather the best economy of them all, but apparently he didn't even have the same economy as Metallo, so that's a bit of a surprise to me. Even though he of course did quite well with the underworld passage to disrupt Titu in there, and he did keep him engaged for quite some minutes. Titu having quite nice units skilled. 198 military count, 450 units skilled. Skadi the opposite, unfortunately for him, but he was facing a tough situation because he was against Mythical Age with just Heroic Age. Not even that for a long time, so yeah, kinda explains why he wasn't having enough fun in the game, and then he was facing the Titan, so that's of course a big problem and big loss of units. Effective fighting with different number of TCs, of course. 64 upgrades. That might be actually all of them, or something like that, for Metal. 1244, 1242 Mythic, 1325 is not bad either from Earth. That's probably the reason why he was able to keep up with Metal, because Metal was slower. He was even at Heroic at 1415 later than Earth was at the Mythic Age. So that could have been the reason why he was able to hold on against them for such a long time, and that allowed Titu to help him the long run. Alright then, GG.